How can we sleep better?
Some of the best data shows that having a little bit of carbohydrates for your dinner, it helps to produce serotonin. Serotonin is a precursor to making melatonin. So your body produces this kind of glorified sleep hormone.
So what would you say is the optimal evening routine?
Number one, just kind of the hallmark thing for me is giving myself some tech-free time. Every hour you're on your device at night, you suppress melatonin for 30 minutes.
Oh. So for those that don't know Shawn, you are the expert on sleep, and more than sleep now, but you're known for sleep. You've got a book about sleep.
Yeah.
But you're just an amazing researcher on the body and on human performance and on nutrition, food, training, sleep, and you're doing more on the emotions and everything on how we can perform better as human beings.
Yeah.
Would I say that's about accurate?
Absolutely, yeah, man. Yeah.
And you just moved to LA, so welcome.
Yeah, you've
welcome
been
to
telling
the
me
View.
for years, man, to come out here.
We have some stuff in common. I lived in St. Louis for 6 years. You grew up there.
Born and raised.
Born and raised, man.
Yeah, St. Louis.
I still have 314 area code myself.
Yeah, me too.
Do you? So I still held that. That's been like 20 years having that cell phone number since 1999. And we're here, man. You've done some amazing things. You've got a book on Audible. It's one of the top books, Sleep Smarter on Audible. That helps so many people sleep better. And I thought it'd be perfect going into a new year to figure out how can we sleep better? What are the main keys for sleeping better moving forward? We talked about this 4 years ago. What's the same and what's updated on how we can sleep better?
Yeah. Man, you know, the thing for everybody to understand, I think it always starts with us asking the right question, you know, and a lot of us, sleep it's just exploded. And I'm so grateful that I was there to kind of thrust this new movement in sleep wellness.
I mean, now there's even so many apps that are podcasts that are just storytelling to go to sleep.
Yeah.
Calm has this series, which is just sleep stories, I think it's called, to help people go to sleep.
Yeah.
Because it's so hard for us.
Yeah, and now we know, but
why is it so hard to go to sleep?
It's just the environment that we live in today, you know, and it's looking again at the question, so what is sleep actually? We have to start there.
What is it?
So this is this thing we're chasing after. We're trying to get more of it. We know it's important, but sleep is really, first of all, it's very strange. You know, if you look at some of the characteristics from the outside, it's like you're unconscious. You know what I mean?
You're laying there for hours.
You're vulnerable. You're not really moving. Your senses are dulled and gone down. You know, obviously your visual senses are reduced or just none unless you're weird and you have your eyes open.
Yeah.
But you know, even your auditory, your sense of smell, your sense of touch, all those things reduce. And but what's different from that and like a coma is that it's easily, you can come out of it if somebody nudges you enough or, you know, you have something that goes
It's a light coma.
Yeah, it's like a little
minor coma.
Mini hibernation. You're like a baby bear for a minute, you know? But what we see in the inside, and this is what's so cool now, is that we can track and we can study the brain and see what happens. We know you're sleeping based on changes that happen in your brain waves. And so right now we're in a kind of normal waking state of beta frequency in our brain waves. Maybe a little gamma if we get to like, you know, Bruce Banner like amped up a little bit. But from our normal waking state of beta, we shift into alpha. It's just a slower pattern. And alpha is really aligned with what we would refer to as like getting in a flow state, right? It's just a calm, relaxed state of presence. And we naturally transition into that state when we're getting close to sleep. This is when a lot of creativity can kind of manifest.
So when we're getting ready for sleep, we get into alpha.
Yeah.
Okay.
This is why it's very good to like, you know, when you first wake up, because you go in reverse when you wake up. You know, to, you know, focus on your day, your goals for the day. Because, okay, so we move from beta to alpha, and then we go to theta. And theta is a really strong transitionary state. In theta, you're in what it would be considered if we looked at it as compared to something like a hypnotic trance, all right? And theta. And so that's
when you're asleep.
This is when you're not asleep. This is a transitionary state, very close to sleep. And when you're in a hypnotic trance, like we were just talking about Marissa Peer, I was just talking with her the other day, but we're kind of trying to manipulate that theta frequency to kind of get in there deeper in the brain. And to give a good analogy, like kids up until the age of about 7 are spending a lot more time in theta. And so you're very impressionable, right? This is why kids like believe everything. you know.
Right.
I'm not going to throw out any names, you know, Santa Claus and anything like that. I'm not going to say it's not real, but, you know, like everything is just taken in very deeply, right? And this is where a lot of our programming that even lasts into our childhood takes place, right? So theta, you're very impressionable. And then from there, we transition into delta. And so this is when we know that we're in sleep. And then within our sleep, there are 4 primary stages. We have the big 2 that people know is non-REM sleep and REM sleep, right? So REM sleep, that's rapid eye movement sleep. This is when you're getting your dream on. And this is when
so your eyes literally like
it is freaky, right?
Really?
This is just a weird thing, yeah. So it's rapid eye movement, your eyes are moving.
And that's the best type of sleep?
No.
Okay.
I'm not gonna say best, it's a part.
Okay.
You know, we need all of them. And this is the point we're gonna come to. And so this is when a process, for example, during REM sleep is when you have something called memory consolidation. This is where things that you're learning even right now get converted into your short-term memory, right? So it gets filed away and becomes more of a permanent potential thing in your brain. You need sleep in order to remember stuff.
Really?
Yeah. Wow. And so there's a study recently, and what they did was they had folks to do a memory test. And they had one set of the participants take the test in the morning, and then they had them to repeat the test at 2-hour increments for 12 hours. And then they tracked their results.
Okay.
Then they had another set of study participants. They had them take the test, and then they had them just, you know, kind of wait all day, get a good night's sleep, and then retest in the morning without doing it over and over again. And they performed 20% better on the memory test, only testing once and then getting a good night's sleep and repeating. All right. We tend to think that we need to keep hammering.
So we shouldn't do the overnight, stay up all night, testing and quizzing ourselves. We should be actually practice for an hour, get a good night's sleep, and hopefully have better results.
Yeah. I mean,
than pulling all-nighters.
The thing is, you know, we've been in this situation where we're pulling all-nighter because we don't know anything.
We don't know nothing. We got to study the whole book.
So yeah, man, but that's REM sleep. And then we have non-REM sleep. It's considered more the anabolic deep sleep. Okay. This is where a lot of the anabolic hormones like HGH get secreted, right? And it's also known as the youth hormone. So kids have a lot of HGH. Right. Up until around 18 to 20, we have a big, sharp decline in our HGH production.
So how do we get more of that?
Sleep. You produce the greatest amount of HGH because we secrete it during the day. All of our hormones are based on the time of day. And this is another really important point, is that we're lined up with nature's clock, but we just don't realize it. Because humans have the unique ability, we can cut ourselves off from it. We could shut all the blinds and, you know, we could just create an eternal daytime in this room if we wanted to, you know what I mean? But all of our hormones are getting released in a cyclical pattern. And human growth hormone, our greatest secretion or skeet of the HGH happens during sleep. And specifically during that first stage of sleep, when we go for the first time into deep delta non-REM sleep.
That's when we're producing HGH. Yeah. We're creating more of it.
The biggest secretion happens then.
Okay.
Yeah. And so if you're not getting optimal sleep, you're missing out on this powerful vital hormone. And whenever I would hear HGH, when I first started doing this research, you know, getting close to a decade ago, I would think of Barry Bonds and like Jason Giambi.
Mark McGwire. Yeah.
A-Rod. No disrespect.
Yeah.
No disrespect. Marion Jones. But it's because of ESPN, just seeing the highlights in the news. But human growth hormone is something that we produce, you know, within our own bodies. Right. You know what I'm saying? So
how do we produce more of it? It's only through sleep?
No. We could with exercise. Okay. You know, especially like drivers of anabolic growth. So resistance training, but more so like power lifts. You can get a really good
powerlifting will help produce more HGH.
Yeah. And so the benefit,
what does HGH do for you when you have
that's
more
what I was going to go to. So the benefit of HGH, it's not that what we tend to think is that it makes you perform better, specifically makes you bigger, right? That's what we think. If you see the transformation of somebody like Barry Bonds' body, it's not that it just makes you bigger and you can hit the baseball faster. They already have these skills. It's the recovery. It helps you recover a lot faster. My 8-year-old son can get out and run, do sprints with us like crazy where we're just demolished the next day. And he's totally fine. Doesn't feel a thing.
He's just producing HGH right? in that sleep, baby.
He's healing. Yeah. You know, he's healing. So it helps with healing. It does help with protein synthesis and also retention of muscle mass. So this is huge. This is something we tend to lose as we get older, is our muscle mass. And I think it's really important for us to understand when we're talking about body composition, weight loss, fat loss, all that stuff, muscle is your body's fat burning machinery, really. That's on your frame.
You need to have more of it if you want to burn fat.
Yeah, because even as we're sitting, we're not training right now, but depending on the amount of muscle mass that we carry on our bodies has a huge impact on how many calories we're burning just sitting here, our resting metabolic rate.
Right.
So HGH helps you to retain that muscle that you're out there working hard to build. So those are just a few of the things.
So what are the main lifts that you would say?
Oh man, I'll tell you straight up, deadlift is like, it's money in the bank for producing HGH.
And you're talking like heavy, or is this just like, if you're doing it, it's 70-80%?
I mean, even 80% is pretty good, but we're talking like getting up there close to your max.
Really?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's for a lot of people, it's like, that might be a little bit of fear comes up. Like, I don't want to lift that heavy. I'll tell you right now, I've been in this field for almost 20 years, all right? And what I've seen, people don't get hurt deadlifting. People getting hurt picking up a feather. They're getting hurt picking up a pillow.
Why is that?
Just because our bodies are so conditioned to sitting and not performing. And we're not doing the things that kids do that keep them healthy, right? One of those
like
things
jumping on the couch or just running around or just picking up stuff.
When do we do that?
We do it as a kid.
And then something happens and we're just like, our environment starts to say, stop playing.
Yeah.
Stop playing so much. Especially from where I'm from, it's like, even that's something we say, you play too much.
Wow, that's so true, man. You play too much.
But it's
you should play a lot. You should play a lot.
You know what it does? And this is the thing, this is why, both of us love sports.
Yeah.
It's a dimension of that that's still socially acceptable, but we love it. You learn boundaries. You learn how to communicate in different ways besides just vocally. You learn how to move your body in space and like things like proprioception. This is the awareness that of your body in space. You improve your proprioception, your neuroception, all these different aspects of our bodies interacting with our environment and also our internal environment. And if we're not playing, we're missing out on this vital part of our development. Yeah.
What are the best ways we can play, you think, as adults?
Oh man.
Is it sports, or is it just go out and throw a football or play Frisbee, or what are the activities you think are best?
It's such a great question, man. This is so funny. I've been thinking about this like the last 2 weeks. I didn't realize I was doing this because my 2 sons live with me. I have 3 kids. My daughter's oldest. My 2 sons live with me. And we just have a culture of like, we're dancing every day, like, I don't know why, we just do it. We're playing every day. Just the other night, my sons, we sat down and ate dinner together. And then afterwards, they were fighting for like 20 minutes. But it was like, they're play fighting.
Sure.
And there's, with you being a parent, after a while, it's just like, would you shut up? Like, stop. Like we start getting irritated. You play too much. But then I catch myself like, they're just having a good time. They're learning how to have those boundaries, how to play with each other, how to move in space, how to grab somebody and not hurt them versus hurt them. You know what I mean? So, and they're playing, they're having a good time. And the thing is, I'm the one who usually initiates it. I just want to do it for a couple of minutes.
Right, not for an hour.
All right, guys, chill. You know what I mean? And so that's one of the things is, if you have children, play with your kids.
What's that mean, play? Wrestle?
A great exercise is, and what I used to do with my son, I mean, we just moved out to LA, so I don't know the landscape as much, but I would take my son to the park and then I would just follow him and do whatever he does.
Whatever he wants to do.
Yeah.
Run around.
Going through the tunnels, climbing stuff. I follow you. He's the boss. Simon says, you know what I mean?
I like that.
That's one thing.
Okay. By the way, your wife has some of the best home cooking I've ever had is with your wife at your place. Yeah. It's amazing. I can't remember what it was specifically, but it was some like casserole type of thing.
Oh, the casserole, yeah.
So good, man.
The buffalo casserole.
Oh man, it was amazing.
And then she made cookies. And I know we were both like so done. And then she made cookies.
Yep. You know what I'm saying?
Crushed those cookies.
Can always eat those cookies. That's my downfall, sugar. Yeah. How bad is sugar for sleep?
That's such a great question, man.
Because that's the only, I want to say it's the only, but it's one of the negatives about me is that I eat too much sugar. And then I'll go off of it for like 60 days, right? I'm like extreme.
Yeah.
I'm all in on a bag of cookies. I can't just do one. Yeah. Or I'll do nothing for a long time.
But I think that deprivation can lead to the rebound behavior.
Probably. Because I'm just like, now I need it.
Yeah. So here's the thing. So there was an incredible study that was done. And it's difficult to do human studies when it comes to addiction because of the implications, right? But there was a fantastic study done using rodents, using mice. And what they allowed the mice to do was have free access to either cocaine or sugar.
And they picked sugar.
96% of the time. The cocaine was not enough, right? They were so addicted to the sugar. And they took—
Sugar probably tastes better too, right?
They took rats that were already even addicted to cocaine, and they quickly progressed and shifted over to an addiction to sugar.
Wow.
It's that strong. And like we humans, we're hardwired. If we're just looking at our biology, we're hardwired through evolution to crave and to enjoy sweet things. For our biology, it's an implication that there's a lot of dense calories there. It's a dense calorie source.
Yeah. It's not a calorie rich. It's not like a healthy calories, right?
Right. Not necessarily, but even the sugar we'd be exposed to through our evolution would be something like the biggest gift we've run into maybe was some honey, but today we have everything 24/7. It's a whole, we're not wired up for this exposure. That's the thing.
And honey was probably like it was probably so strong, and then you just put a little bit on to add, not like you dump the whole thing in there like a Winnie the Pooh or something. Right? It's just like licking out of the jar, because I can drink a whole jar of honey if I wanted to, you know what I mean?
I was so addicted to Honey Nut Cheerios. Like that was
oh
my
my
jam.
God, those are so good.
That little bee, man, it was like my bestie, man.
Oh, those
when
are
I met my wife and I was like shifting, like I changed my health, and I've been working as a personal trainer for like a year and a half. But that was my thing. I was like eating organic, whatever, but I had my Honey Nut Cheerios.
Wow.
It was my midnight snack, right? But then here's the thing.
The milk tastes amazing.
Afterwards, the milk.
Oh my gosh, it's so good.
Get me started, man.
I haven't had cereal in a long time.
Yeah.
That was one of the things that was the hardest for me to let go of, but it's something I eliminated essentially from my diet.
Yeah.
And I just replaced with cookies or something else.
Yeah, man, it's crazy, dude. There's the culture, again, that's the big thing. But just on that point of how does this affect our sleep? I think it's a really great question. And so the first thing to understand is the impact that sugar has on various hormones. If we're thinking about, cortisol, for example, or, stress response. And basically what happens is when we eat a high concentration of sugar, we get this hit and it feels good. We get like a serotonin hit, and this is why some carbohydrates, like if we are selectively getting our carbohydrates, it can be a good thing, right? But it's just when we go too far and we have a hypoglycemic response, right? And so we get a blood sugar spike and then a blood sugar crash. And that for us, that's emergency to our biology, because when your blood sugar goes too low, you have reduced brain function, and your body, if we're talking about survival in the conditions that we evolved in, you're not sharp.
You're tired.
Exactly. And you can be more of a victim, right? And so, or prey. And so what happens is you get a response from your sympathetic nervous system and your cortisol levels, norepinephrine, adrenaline, all those things start to spike to lift your blood sugar back up again.
So you're not vulnerable.
Exactly. So that you're just sharp and ready and okay and prepared.
So your body's just going up and down all day, as opposed to a steady and maybe a spike when you eat a little bit and then steady and right? Or
but if we're talking close in proximity to sleep, that's going to really mess your sleep up. Yeah.
So when, there's all these different people that talk about intermittent fasting or when you should stop eating by, what does the research say about eating before sleep? Anything, whether it's healthy, a snack, a dark chocolate, a wine, I don't care what it is.
Yeah.
Is there a time limit you should stop eating by before sleep? And is there certain foods you can eat before sleep that will actually benefit or not?
Yeah, this is a good question. I've been looking into this for quite some time now. So let's address both of these things.
Yeah.
Let's address wine, let's address alcohol, and let's address food. All right, so with alcohol, so what we do know is that alcohol does in fact help you to fall asleep faster. This is a fact across the board.
Yeah, it relaxes you.
Yeah, it's a sedative, and that's all good. The issue, however, is that we experience something with alcohol in your system and how your body metabolizes alcohol. It's called a REM rebound effect, right? REM rebound effect. And so what happens is we go into, earlier we talked about those sleep stages. Basically, you are unconscious, but your sleep stages are fragmented and broken. And so we'll go into a deep sleep.
What are the stages again of sleep?
So we're transitioning as we go from
You're awake,
waking state to sleep. We go from beta, alpha, theta, delta. But within our sleep, we have these 4 stages. So we have non-REM sleep, REM sleep, and some transitionary stages.
Gotcha.
And so some of these stages, when we're actually asleep and unconscious, get broken. And so our REM sleep is suppressed, right? And remember, REM sleep is where a lot of memory processing takes place.
So if you're drinking a lot at night, you'll have less memory. Is that what I'm hearing?
Do you know anybody who is drunk before they went to sleep and not remember what happened?
Lots of people.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's because of the sleep.
So it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter that you got sleep. It's the quality of your sleep that matters.
Yes. Yeah. And you can literally forget what happened. You know, this whole
so many people say that. I don't remember a thing.
Yeah. It's because their REM sleep is damaged.
Wow.
But then there's a big rebound effect with the REM sleep towards the end of the sleep cycle. If somebody is like getting 8 hours of sleep on alcohol. And so again, but this is not to say you can't drink. Right. It's just, I would recommend give yourself a little bit of a curfew with the alcohol of a couple hours if you can. Like if you plan on getting to bed at midnight, maybe just stop drinking around 10, give your body metabolizes alcohol relatively quickly for most folks. And you can accelerate and support the process by having some more water.
Is there a thing as having too much water before sleep?
If peeing is a problem, like so many, people come into my clinic and they're just like, I keep getting up in the middle of the night. When they don't drink water all day, then they guzzle it before they go to bed, But there are some situations when folks have issues with, their bladder and kidneys, things like that. But for most folks,
if you're drinking water before bed and you're waking up once messes up your sleep, is what I'm hearing.
Yeah. I mean, it can, but I don't want to make a psychological big deal out of it because it's okay. There's even research now, and it's come out recently, just in the last couple of years, about humans having basically 2 phases of sleep.
So
there's some evidence.
Wake up for a moment and then go back.
Yeah.
To sleep.
So what would happen if we're talking, 1,000 years ago? Let's go back even further, 10,000 years ago.
Yeah.
When folks are, you're living in tribes, you got a hut going, right? Yeah. So you go to sleep, But first of all, we would go to sleep earlier because when it gets dark,
7 o'clock at night. Yeah.
Safety, right? Yeah. You're not out and about on the tundra, you know what I'm saying, where the lion can see you, but you can't see it, right?
You're protected a cave. Yeah.
And even if you think about sleep, because again, like I've been just processing this stuff for the last few years, if it wasn't as valuable as it is, we would have evolved out of it a long time ago. Just if you think about how vulnerable you are, right? It's just so much magic happens when you're sleeping that we just can't get anywhere else. And so anyways, we would go to sleep when the sun goes down, and wake up maybe, so just say somebody goes to sleep at 9 o'clock. They sleep until maybe 1. You get up, maybe have a little snacky, maybe have sex, maybe, if you got fire, maybe you write or read by fire. But today, phone, right? If we get up, midnight snack, beaming light coming out of the refrigerator.
Crazy, right?
And, and we're grabbing like a Twinkie, you know what I mean? But then you go back to sleep and you'd have time to get another, 3-4 hours of sleep in addition to that. Yeah. So what I'm trying to say is it's not a problem that we wake up at night. And I've seen so many people get just very, just psychologically troubled.
Messed up,
that I wake up at night. It's okay. It's okay. We have to relax into it and understand that, things happen, our bodies, but for some folks, it is chronic. It's a chronic issue. And it usually has to do with what's happening with their hormones. Yeah. And if we did a hormone panel, we'd see that a lot of times we call them clinically tired and wired, where even though they're physiologically tired, their body's wired at night. Cortisol is spiking way too early in the evening because your cortisol is actually supposed to elevate first thing in the morning, like between, like when the sun comes up.
Yeah.
That's how we're hardwired. Cortisol is not a bad thing. And that's another thing I want to make clear today. None of our hormones are bad. We wouldn't have them, but it just gets all of the bad press now. But cortisol helps your thyroid to work.
Right.
Your thyroid is regulating your metabolism. You want to burn fat? You need cortisol, all right? It's not a bad guy. It's just if it's produced in the wrong times or the wrong amounts, it could be a little bit of a problem.
Okay.
It's kind of, I think of it like Hulk, in the Avengers.
Sure.
It's like, he's got a role, but he might smash some stuff on accident if he's like given too much responsibility. You know what I mean?
Right.
So, so if we're looking at alcohol, just to go back on that, on that
2 hours before, don't be excessive with it.
Yeah.
I'm assuming, right?
Yeah.
Don't get drunk.
Yeah. If you're getting drunk, you better believe like
You're screwed. Doesn't matter how much time you got. Yeah.
The hangover is a result of the sleep damage. That's really the big thing.
Really?
Yeah.
So if you get a great sleep, you shouldn't have a hangover.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But it's hard to have great sleep if you're drunk.
Yeah. You can forget. I mean, you forget about it. But also, and I know that a lot of people experience this, that you can handle it more when you're younger, right?
Yeah, but it's still, you're not going to remember things.
Yeah. I'm not saying that part.
Yeah.
And also, we're accelerating our aging when we do stuff like that. Sleep deprivation. I don't know if you talked with her, but I was talking with Alyssa Epple. And so her co-author of The Telomere Effect, Dr. Elizabeth Blackburn, she won the Nobel Prize for the discovery of telomerase. And so telomeres...
But you need them to be longer for you to have a longer life.
Telomerase is an enzyme that can add length back onto your telomeres, essentially reversing the aging process. Right. Essentially, it's very complicated, but just as essential. But what shortens your telomeres faster than anything, apparently, is sleep deprivation.
So if you're pulling all-nighters, you're doing 4 hours of sleep only, and you think that's cool, it's not cool.
It's not cool. You're accelerating the time that you're going to kick on.
You're going to die quicker.
Diabetes, heart disease. We used to see this stuff in folks who we describe as, quote, in the elderly population, arthritis. Then it started to happen generations younger and younger and younger. Now we even have children who are getting adult onset diabetes. We had to change the name to a type 2 diabetes, right? Because it's no longer just adults getting it. Right. And so just to make that clear, and I know this from experience because this happened to me. I had basically arthritis of the spine when I was 20, right? In track practice in St. Louis, I was doing a 200-meter time trial and I broke my hip from running because my body, I accelerated the aging process so much.
Really?
Because of the way I was living my life.
You weren't sleeping well?
Nothing was well. But a big part of me for me is like, what are you making your body out of? Which we know we get into and talk about another time, but you know, if you're not giving your body the raw materials to build your house, your physical house, it's just going to do a patchwork job. You know, I
don't remember you saying that. You broke your hip in practice.
At track practice. No trauma. Nobody hit me. 200-meter time trial, broke my hip.
Man, Bo Jackson up in here.
Dude, I ran a 4.540 when I was 15.
Wow.
You know what I mean? Like everything was looking great, but just.
What were you doing?
Man, I was made out of true story. I was made out of probably 5% Emo's pizza. You know what I mean?
Gosh, it's so good though. Clayton, Missouri, man. Emo's Pizza. It's so good.
I barely ate. I didn't eat a salad until I was in my 20s.
I didn't eat salad until about 5 years ago. Till my 30s, man.
Yeah, but you were sneaking other stuff in though.
I was doing veggies. I was doing other stuff. Yeah. But yeah, I didn't eat a salad because I was I'm still a picky SOB right now. Yeah. But it's like every year I evolve more and more and I try new things. But I figured out a way to make a salad taste great. Yeah. Because I never liked the dressings. They always smelled bad for me. But Sweet Green, have you been to Sweet Green yet?
I don't think
so. It's amazing. There's got to be one by you. Sweet Green. It's kind of like just a build your own salad. So it's like I can throw some chicken in there or I can throw something else, but it's got a dressing. I found one dressing that I like. It's like this spicy cashew. And that made the difference for me. So I'm just fill up all the veggies in there and just a tiny bit of cashew dressing. And it's I'm good. And I try to eat that almost every day.
Ooh. So now we know your secret, man. So it's the spicy cashew dressing.
A little bit, not too much, because I don't want to be drizzled with calories and all this stuff. It's just a little bit. And
what's in the salad?
So I put romaine and arugula and romaine or baby spinach. I mix up that 3 combination. Usually just do 2 of them. Sometimes I do kale, but it's a little too hard for me now. So I do arugula and baby spinach usually, and then romaine. And then I put carrots, onions, sometimes squash, cauliflower, broccoli, sometimes sweet potato based on what I'm doing. Then I'll put chicken and a little bit of cashew sauce, and that's it, man.
Man, congratulations. You were adulting so hard
right?
now,
but it's those are the only ingredients that I'll put in.
Yeah. But listen to
the
this,
same thing over and over.
You're winning on a whole different level. So and I've been talking about this a lot recently, but I've been studying the brain for a new project I've been doing. And a recent study, this was done at Chicago's Rush University, and they compiled all this data. They had thousands and thousands of study participants. And they found that test participants who were consuming 2 servings of green leafy vegetables a day had brains that were 11 years younger than the rest of the study participants who weren't getting that much in.
Wow.
Crazy, right?
So leafy greens every day, 2 servings.
Yeah. And this was done on elderly folks. And so you can keep your brain 11 years younger by getting in 2 servings. 2 servings a day.
So let's get back to the what should we eat before sleep, if anything, and when should we finish eating before we go to sleep?
Perfect.
So we talked about alcohol.
Yep.
Don't have too much. Don't get drunk, but you can have some wine if you want to, a couple hours before.
Yeah.
Don't drink too much water, because if you're going to wake up all the time, that's not good either.
Yeah.
So what about food?
So with food, there's contradicting information out there on this, you know, and so some of the best data shows that having a little bit of carbohydrates for your evening meal, for your dinner. So I'm not saying like eat a chocodile and then go to bed. I'm saying like, you know, if you have dinner at 7, 8 o'clock, having a little whack of carbohydrates, it helps to produce serotonin.
What are the best carbohydrates? Like sweet potato?
Well, you just mentioned it, sweet potato.
Cauliflower.
I mean, you know, vegetables are carbohydrate dominant foods, but you know, some a little bit denser, you know, so we could say sweet potatoes, there's quinoa. When we get into these things, everybody's different. Okay, we can do a whole show talking on this. You know, there's like saponins in, you know, the quinoa that might be trouble for some people. It could be white rice, brown rice. It could be, you know, a little pasta. You know, it depends on the person. There's different kinds of pasta now. Exactly. You know what I'm saying? There's like
cauliflower pasta.
They make pasta out of everything. You know?
Zucchini pasta.
Right, zucchini pasta. I think I saw like there's some coffee pasta. I don't know, man. I'm just kidding. That would be crazy though.
Pasta. Okay, so you can have a little bit of carbohydrates for your meal.
Fruit is another obviously dominant category of foods.
So what will that do for you?
So this causes a boost in serotonin when we have a little bit of carbohydrates. And so I know there's a big keto movement, which again is a wonderful framework. I use all these different frameworks in my nutrition practice as a consultant and as a nutritionist for, again, you know, almost 20 years now I've been in this field. But and I would base it on what the person needed, right? And it's always dependent on you and where you are right now, which might change. And so when we're getting in the conversation about keto, you could even have a certain percentage of carbohydrates on a keto. You might even just reserve those for your evening meal.
Really?
Right? And so beans could be another one, you know, depending on your digestion, how the beans are prepared. And so with that said, so serotonin, here's what's so cool about it. Serotonin is a precursor to making melatonin, right? So your body produces this kind of glorified sleep hormone. But man, when we talked earlier about how our body is lined up with nature, and how our body is secreting hormones on a pattern or cycles, melatonin is arguably the biggest controller of your body's metabolic or circadian rhythm, your circadian clock that's determining when you're producing all your hormones. Melatonin is not just about sleep. It's about regulating your whole body.
That's why there's so many supplements coming out, melatonin supplements that are doing so well, right?
Yeah, but you gotta be careful. Like that's straight up hormone therapy. You know what I mean? It's such a big regulator and controller. And, you know, just talking with the bosses in this space, you know, talking with Dr. Oz and Dr. Michael Bruce and all these guys, and we're having these conversations, we've seen clearly that folks that get dependent taking too high of a dose or taking melatonin too frequently, and here's what we thought. It was just a hypothesis. We thought that like some other type of, like taking exogenous testosterone, it might reduce your body's production. It doesn't reduce your body's production of melatonin, which we got to come back to where this is happening. But what it does is it depresses or shuts down your body's receptor sites for melatonin. So you still make it, but your cells' receptor sites can't engage and receive it and turn on the sleep-related processes and everything else. Problem, right? The great thing is that we do have access to these supplements, which is wonderful. I'm a big fan of using them in micro doses, and or even more so for me would be in spot cases, right? Just use them temporarily.
I'm deficient of something, B12 or whatever. It's like, take this for a few months until you feel like you're caught up to speed.
Our sleep is so important with so many things. And so if you just need to get on track, but we just don't want to create a dependency. I love it for travel. Like if you're changing time zones, you want to get back on schedule. If you've had a couple rough nights of sleep, you know, maybe it's work or whatever, that's a great spot.
Or something, or whatever. Okay.
So melatonin has its place, but just to go back to where this is produced and why even taking a supplement, you still continue to produce is that, and this is crazy because in my conventional university class, I was taught that your pineal gland produces melatonin. That's it. We now know today that there's 400 times more melatonin in your gut, in your belly than in your brain. All right. So this microbiome, all this science and all of this discussion happening now, it really is a final frontier when we're talking about health. It's the interface between the outside world and us. It's like what we're taking and putting in our bodies. That's the most intimate experience in the world. And what's happening in your microbiome determine what becomes you and what is waste. You know, so that's a whole other conversation. But I just want people to know that we have to take care of our gut health. And we'll come back, we'll talk about that another time. So melatonin is tied to all these things. But with serotonin, with getting that little hit of carbohydrates can be helpful for producing serotonin and melatonin in the evening. Now, there was a study that was conducted and they found that when folks who were overweight ate close to bedtime, they had a greater secretion of cortisol. All right, so upwards of like over 50% greater cortisol secretion. All of us, by the way, produce a little bit of cortisol when we eat a meal because it's a big, like all hands on deck experience. Because again, you're taking stuff from the outside world and putting it in you. Your body got to make sure that you're safe.
It's got to assimilate it. It's got to, check it all, make sure it doesn't throw it up
everything. Like it's so much that happens. But if the folks who were overweight in the study who consumed right before bed had like over 50% higher secretion of cortisol. And the problem with that is that cortisol is kind of like the antithesis or like has an inverse relationship with melatonin. So if cortisol is high, melatonin gets
So you're not sleeping well if you're eating right before bed.
Yeah. If you're overweight, obese, there's a higher propensity. And this is why there's some efficacy behind the statement of don't eat before bed. I don't like that statement as a blanket statement across the board. I don't. However, I do like to, looking at the research, it's saying, so just to be a little bit more mindful of that. But the problem is like, number one, if you want to have something, have something.
Yeah.
It's more stressful trying not to have a snack if you want a snack. But also part of the reason we might want to have a snack, at 12 o'clock at night is because we're up, Netflix and chilling, you know what I mean?
You should be asleep, buddy, right? You should be asleep.
So that's part of it is just our practices and our culture around food and us not getting the nutrition we need. But it's our culture around food. And so it goes back to like, you need to be sleeping. A sleepy brain is a hungry brain.
Really?
Right? A sleepy brain is a hungry brain.
So if you're tired, you're hungry?
Absolutely. I call it tungry.
You got hangry and tungry.
I think that just happened. Yes.
An angry brain is a hungry brain too, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
So why is that? Why is a sleepy brain hungry for food?
Oh man, this is so crazy. Listen to this. So there was a study that was conducted and it was crazy in what happens with the brain and your nutrition and glucose reaching the brain when you're sleepy. And so across the board, even though we can use ketones for processes in the brain, we all know this, but there are certain parts of your brain that can only run on glucose. And so what the study found was that when folks were sleep deprived just one night, all right, so one night of total sleep deprivation was used in the study. So that's basically if we stayed up for 24 hours from now until the same time tomorrow, they found that there was a 12% reduction in glucose reaching the brain. All right, so this is literally your brain is starting to starve. And what happens when that happens, when we go back to that evolutionary perspective, it's danger, right? All hands on deck, cortisol response, adrenaline response. It is a dangerous situation.
Yeah.
And they found specifically 14% of that carbohydrate reduction or glucose reduction reaching your brain cells was from the prefrontal cortex. So that's the most human part of your brain responsible for executive function, social control, distinguishing between right and wrong. So your ability to even choose whether or not to eat a food is dramatically reduced because your brain is like starving. If you've ever had ice cream, if you've ever had cookies, if you've ever had a candy bar, your brain knows, hardwiring, I can get a dense source of glucose to shoot it back to my brain because I need it.
Yeah.
And so that's when we get into a battle of our biology versus our willpower. Your willpower is going to lose out eventually.
It's true.
Even for the toughest among us. You know what I'm saying? So, but why stack conditions against yourself? And we do that when we're sleep deprived. And so that's what I want people to know is that it's not, a lot of times these things aren't necessarily your fault when you're trying to battle it out and not eat a food. It's because our brains are usually, a tired brain is a hungry brain.
Wow. So what would you say is the optimal evening routine or the one that you do?
Yeah, that's a great question, man. Great question. It's evolved, you know what I mean? And that's what I want people to take away too, is that you can change. There's so much cool stuff that we can do today. You got meditation, you got journaling, you got, Tai Chi, you know what I'm saying? There's all this stuff you could do, playing board games. There's that cool, have you played the Heads Up?
Oh yeah, it's great.
Right?
It's great.
So you've got all these cool things you could do to hang out with your friends, spend time with your significant other. How do we fit it all in? Well, you don't have to do everything, or you can do each thing in a micro way. But so for me, my current evening routine is, number one, just kind of the hallmark thing for me is giving myself some tech-free time before I go to bed, before I lay my head down. At least 30 minutes. Yeah. We all can do this. And Harvard researchers have confirmed, I talked about this, and I pushed this into culture like the last 5 years hard. So if people have heard this, you know where it came from, all right? I've been really working to get this out here. And we've got them right here, man. We got the new iPhone. It's got 3 cameras.
Sick, dude.
It's fun to play
it's amazing.
with, right? But this device is the greatest deterrent for our sleep quality today.
So bad.
And so Harvard researchers confirmed that the light exposure, blue light specifically, and white light, that kind of shoot out from our devices that we can't really see if we're sitting here and we have this light around us, this ambient light. But if you're in a dark room and you see that phone,
right,
it's like emanating like this bluish alien light, right? And so what they found was that this light does in fact suppress your melatonin secretion and dramatically increases cortisol. And they got numbers on this. So what they found is that approximately every hour you're on your device at night, you suppress melatonin for 30 minutes.
Oh.
All right? Every hour you're on your device, you suppress melatonin for 30 minutes. So if you're on your device 3 hours, melatonin suppressed for 90 minutes.
Wow.
Right? And so again, even though you might be unconscious and go to bed and you're not aware anymore, you're not going through your sleep cycles efficiently. So that's what it's really about, is optimizing our sleep cycles.
Yeah.
And we do that with the way we live our lives. And so just to go back on that point with me, just 30 minutes
at least, no phone.
Yeah, at least. Ideally, we want to see more like 60 minutes,
60,
if possible.
90.
Yeah, I mean, then we're like,
That's like ninja
we get
level.
into that place of like, what do I do though?
You read a book, you hang out with your friends, you go to bed.
Some people just aren't trying to hear that, man. You know what I mean?
So that's no phone and no TV?
Yeah.
So no, you can't watch your show or your movie. You can't.
But here's a couple of hacks. And I'm sure a
put
lot of people know this.
on,
you got the blue light blocking glasses.
Yeah.
You've got blue light blocking apps for your phone. Like it's built into the iPhone now. And folks who have an Android, they have like night shift. I'm sorry, what's it called? Twilight.
Yeah.
Is another thing. I believe that's what it's called.
Okay. So there's some things you can do.
Yeah. So there's things that you can do to kind of reduce that experience. And for many folks, and I know myself included, I definitely do feel like sometimes even it's a neuroassociation, just putting the glasses on, I would get sleepy. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Just by putting the glasses on.
Like, okay,
chilling out.
Yeah.
Or we can also, dim the lights around us, maybe even change some bulbs, a couple of bulbs in your house. Candlelight, that's sexy. You know what I'm saying? So you just change, and then we evolve with those kinds of lights in the evening, those tones, right? These kind of warmer colors. And so that's what I do. I give myself a 30-minute curfew, and I really love to just kind of take some time, hang out with my wife, we'll talk, I'll do some reading. This is when but it's a light dimmer.
Yeah.
Light's a little bit dimmer. I'll do at least probably 10 minutes of reading, 20 minutes sometimes, if we're not, spending some time together, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So we have that. And then for me, I love if I get a chance to do a magnesium bath in the evening. So this is a big one, man. So magnesium has been found to be responsible for over 650 biochemical processes in the body. Many of them related to relaxation and sleep. All right. So magnesium is needed to contraction and relaxation of your muscles. So the relaxation response of your muscles, like if somebody's cramping, that kind of thing, magnesium helps a lot.
Wow, okay.
All right. So, but also it relaxes your nervous system. So it helps to shift over from your sympathetic fight or flight nervous system. Magnesium helps to shift you into the parasympathetic rest and digest part of your nervous system. Yeah. And so people have been doing this for centuries. Like Epsom salt baths has helped to improve sleep and relax sore muscles, help you to heal faster, all that stuff. It has some credence. Now we got some supercharged magnesium salts and
really. So you do this almost every night?
No, a couple times a week. You know what I'm saying?
But even once a week could be good.
Yeah. What I have a topical magnesium spray. Wow. So I use that almost every night. So I'll just massage, rub that in, and that's another thing that you could do too. get a massage. All right, if you can,
Before sleep?
From your significant other, or self-massage. There's even acupressure points. And I talk about this in Sleep Smarter because I'm very analytical in how I think. I'm like, you could like touch a point and, but there is some evidence that this, they did this in a clinic. I'm sorry, in a hospital. And so what they did was manipulate this acupressure point, and they saw higher levels of melatonin metabolites in their urine by manipulating this pressure point. So it's doing something with melatonin.
Right.
So, but with massage, you produce endorphins, serotonin, right? So this all helps with that relaxation response. I don't know anybody that's ever gotten a massage and like gotten up, it's like, I'm so ready to fight now. You know what I mean? Like,
right. You just want to chill for another few hours. Yeah,
that's it, man.
Okay.
So if I can, my wife, like I'll massage her feet, or if she wants to massage my feet, that's so great, man, by the way. Or I got like a little tennis ball and I'll just like put that on the floor and rub that around on my feet, bottom of my feet. So there's another couple things. And so some of these things are not as consistent. Consistent things for me is screen curfew, reading, time with my wife, and magnesium. Those are my things.
And no food at a certain time, probably, right?
Yeah, I don't even think about it because I'm nourished and I don't have a hungry brain. So if I eat, we finish eating at, 7 or 8, whatever it is, like I feel good. Like I don't need to jam any food before bed. But the other thing I do as I'm walking into the bedroom is I turn the thermostat down.
Make it cold.
Yeah, and we've talked about this before.
Yes.
And so
69.
Yeah.
That's what I keep it at, man, every night.
Yeah.
It's so good.
It is, and this goes back to that evolutionary process, evolutionary biology. We have a natural drop in our core body temperature at night, 1 to 2 degrees.
Yeah.
And what the theory is, because again, like a lot of stuff we don't know specifically why, but is that our body uses a lot of energy to try to keep our temperature up. So by bringing that down a little bit, more energy is being dispersed to do things like memory consolidation, like detoxification of your brain via the glymphatic system, like there's like a changing of the guard that happens in your gut microbiome. Like all this energy is needed to bring you back better, right? And so if your environment is too hot, no matter where you live on the planet, whether if it's like Chile or it's, Antarctica, it gets, well, that might not be a good example, but during the daytime and during the nighttime, the temperature is different. Yeah. The temperature goes down a little bit at night, no matter where you are. And so if you artificially keep it high, your body's gonna kind of be trying to fight to bring itself down. So help it a little bit. Today, we do have access, a lot of us, to regulate our thermostat. Yeah. At least, like during this time of year here in LA, like it can get down, 50s and 60s, like you can just open a window, And so, so that's what I do. I turn the thermostat down or turn the heat off if it's been on.
Sure. Yeah. Amazing. So that's your evening routine. Yeah. What else do we need to know about sleep? We've talked about sleep sanctuaries and making sure you have the snake plants and all these other things. Do you still do the snake plant?
I have not we just moved, so I haven't gotten my whole thing optimized, except like we got some blackout curtains because when you came to my house, like we were out in the woods.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Dark.
It was dark.
You don't need blackout. Right? You got.
It was like, maybe a little moonlight, but that's our bodies. We evolved with that. That's a natural spectrum of light, and the lux is so much less than what's beaming out of your telephone or the sun. But now, we're like in a neighborhood, so I got some blackout curtains again. But something else that I think people would be interested in is still the buy-in. Like, why does this matter? Why should I be looking at optimizing my sleep for 2020?
Yes.
Like this is a new decade. This could be the best decade of your life.
But it's also with all these opportunities and work harder mentality and be more productive, you're going to get less sleep, less quality sleep if you have that mentality as well, right? If you're like, so many opportunities, it's a new decade, let's crush the decade. That type of thinking could make you hurtful in sleep, right?
When you said crush, I immediately thought of Gary Vee.
Of course.
And he's like the guy everybody seems like, he's out there just dominating. His thing now that he's out talking about, he gets 7 hours of sleep a night. Yeah. I talked with him maybe 4 years ago. We're having dinner. And this is beard Gary Vee. Yeah. I don't know, he did his little moment of beard. Yeah. And I was just like, inquiring like, hey man, so what's with your health practices? Like you're trying to play the long game. You're talking about buying the jets. How you gonna do that
If you're dead.
Yeah, if you're dead.
If you're dead.
D-E-A-D, dead.
Yeah, exactly.
So what he was like, he's hired a trainer to travel with him because he knows himself to keep him accountable on that end. And he gets his sleep, despite what people think, right? And so just keep that in mind. The people that you're looking at and the people that, even the ones that are saying, sleep is for suckers, I promise they're sleeping. I promise.
They gotta be.
You can't operate. And also they might not be sleeping enough and they're not reaching their full potential. You know what I mean? So be very careful about that, because what you want to do, you don't want to just execute. You want to be the very best version of yourself to get up and execute. You can accomplish so much more when you feel well.
I think I saw Steve Harvey talk about, he's mentioned something. I think he said sleep is for those who are broke or something like that. Yeah. Did you see this?
I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
I think he said something like that.
I don't know if that was Steve. It might have been him. Yeah. Was that him that said that?
He said this recently, or I saw a video came up about a month ago where he's like, sleep is for
broke people.
For broke people or something like that, where it's like, you got to work harder than people if you want to make money, right? You got to spend extra hours and things like that. But
again, like I know a lot of these people, man, who have these messages, and even, another really good friend of mine, and yours too, Eric Thomas, right? He's another person, out there. But he's shared this.
And he's like, I wake up at 4 a.m. or 5 a.m.
But he goes to sleep early. Like we've been hanging out for a long time.
He goes to sleep at like 8 p.m. or something, right?
He's knocked out, all right? But he's getting up and grinding, right? When he's up, he's trouble. So his thing is get enough sleep, but don't sleep in. Don't oversleep. Don't be lazy.
Yeah.
That's the difference. It's not don't sleep. That's killing yourself. And you're not showing up as the best you, as we kind of gone through today.
Is there too much sleep?
Absolutely, yeah. We can, and I know that many of us have experienced this where maybe we sleep longer than normal and we're tired. Like we're super tired when we get up and we're like tired for a while. And a big part of that is just kind of even how we're interrupting our sleep cycles, But that's a, really unique conversation.
What is the optimal amount of hours for most people who live busy lives, who are pushing the envelope on work, family, activities? They're doing a lot of things.
Yeah.
They're trying to fill it all on their plate, achieve their goals and do everything. What would be the optimal amount of hours of sleep for those types of people?
I'll tell you right now that 8 hours is not enough for some people. All right, for some people it's 6. For some people it's 7. For some people it's 9. It depends, man. It's the answer that nobody wants to hear because, these so-called experts are like giving people these cookie cutter answers like, you need to get 8 hours of sleep. I think that's wildly negligent to tell people that, because you can become neurotic about something that you don't even really need. What it really boils down to, if you're getting 8 hours of shitty sleep, for me, I liken sleep minutes to calories. Like today, most people are well aware that it's not just the quantity of calories, it's the quality of those calories. Yeah. For same thing, it's the quality of those sleep minutes, not just the quantity, right? So you can get if you're looking at, what did I mention earlier? A chocodile, right? Versus wild caught salmon or, Lewis's salad. Yeah. Is there a name of the salad?
I should call it
Lewis's salad.
The Great Salad or something. Because it's a custom bowl. It's the greatness bowl.
Yes. The salad of greatness.
Yes.
So a chocodile versus the salad of greatness, it's going to have wildly different impact on what it does to your metabolism, right? And so the same thing with your sleep minutes. You can be getting 8 hours of chocodile sleep because of your blue light exposure, because of you not tapping into thermal regulation, because you having issues with blood sugar regulation, and listing goes on and on and on, some of the things we talked about. Or you can get an incredible optimized version of that sleep that only takes you 6.5 hours, where you're going through your sleep cycles efficiently and you're waking up feeling like a beast, right? The answer is it depends. The quality of your sleep and who you are and what you're doing right now. Yeah. Because there are times in your life when you've had to sleep more,
Absolutely.
Right? If you're somebody's training for whatever, your body just needs a little bit more sleep. Maybe you're under a lot of stress, whatever the case might be, it's gonna change. Now we have to honor our bodies. Obviously, I'm a big fan of routine because your body's always looking for routine. But when you're up, life is dynamic, things are gonna happen. And so I allow myself to change my sleep schedule a little bit. And I try to stay within a nice framework. But if something's going on, and I know that I'm stressed, man, I really need to back off. I need to recover. I don't need to push it down more. And this also just comes with experience too.
Sure.
You know what I mean? So that I can wake up recovered and get back on my grind. You know what I mean? And so, but just a little quick thing that I want to share with people, that's another big buy-in point, is that our sleep quality affects our appearance, right? Specifically, you know, nobody's waking up like, you know what, I just want to be super ugly today. Like as ugly as possible. You know what I mean? I want to scare children. You know what I mean? And there was this really cool study that was done recently. So this was just in 2017. And the Swedish researchers, and what they did was they had study participants take a picture after a full night of good sleep. And then they had them take a picture after sleep depriving them, where they're getting about 5 to 6 hours of sleep for 2 days. All right, so they sleep deprive them for 2 days, take their picture again. There's a mixture of pictures that these raters, the people who were rating all the people's beauty, and what they did was they looked at all the different pictures, and this is looking at what's happening in our brains, just again through evolutionary biology. When we see people, we get feedback.
Yeah.
And what the scientists were wanting to do was to find out, does sleep deprivation cause a hesitance to want to be around somebody?
Wow.
Right? And so what the raters found was that when people were sleep deprived, they were deemed to be less attractive. They were deemed to be less healthy. And they also decided, like, I would be less interested in socializing with this person. Okay?
Wow.
Just in 2 days of sleep deprivation. And another study by Swedish researchers found that just 5 days of sleep deprivation, you know, just getting less than 6 hours of sleep, led to 45% increase in fine lines and wrinkles in the face. It aged you very quickly. But the good news is it reverses, not as quickly.
It rebounds.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's called beauty sleep. Why don't we talk about this more?
It's true.
You know what I mean? It's called beauty
true.
sleep for a reason. There's real rejuvenative magic in this.
In sleeping.
You know what I mean? And so looking at how we feel about other people and how we're showing up in the world, like your sleep has a big impact on that.
And tell people about sleep debt. You mentioned this before. If you've gone 25 years of just horrible sleep, can you oversleep for 20 years?
25 years, that's a long time.
A few years, 5 years, 10 years, you know, if you've been bad in your 20s and you've been partying late nights and you're a promoter and you get horrible sleep every night, can you rebound and put more sleep in that bank debt and recover?
And the way that we think about sleep debt, it doesn't work like that. The good news is, again, this kind of goes back to the conversation about telomeres. Once we change our habits and our practices, you can do things to start to reverse that aging process in some aspects, right? By lengthening those telomeres, by doing good things for your body, which includes getting more sleep. So you burning the candle at both ends, or burning the telomeres at both ends, you can reverse that process. Okay. That's the good news.
That's good.
Now, in the context of sleep debt, so if you're just sleep deprived for, you know, just say you're going like months at a time, getting, you know, 4 whatever hours, your incidence of heart disease is skyrocketing, heart attack, stroke, diabetes, all this stuff is going up. Chances are you're not going to make it very far. Some people even people listening, like, well, I'm fine. You got to be careful about that. Now, that sleep debt is a lot to pay back. If it's like a day or two, maybe 3-4 days at the most, and you kind of catch up, you know, maybe on the weekend, that can be helpful. But it's still like you're not getting back as much as you're taking out, if that makes sense. So the best strategy is to get high quality, for the keywords, high quality sleep more consistently. And then if something happens where it throws you off, like, you know, you go out, whatever, you know, like you got an event for a couple of days, all good. But guess what? You're going to probably be pretty destroyed and you're going to want to sleep more and recover.
Yeah, of course.
You know what I mean? But if you're constantly dipping into that bank account, you can't readily pay it back as much as we think.
Got it, man. Dude, this is awesome stuff. Let's share the 3 truths, because I don't know if people probably didn't hear you 4 years ago, all my new audience members. So I don't even know if I asked you this last time.
I don't know, man.
Maybe.
I don't think so.
So imagine it's your last day on earth many years from now, and you've created everything you want to create. You've done all the research, the books, the podcasts, whatever it is, you've done it all.
Yeah.
But for whatever reason, you got to take all of your work with you to the next world, heaven, wherever you go, right?
Yeah.
But you get to leave behind a piece of paper, and you can write down 3 things you know to be true about your whole life experience. Of all the lessons and truths that you know that you would want to share behind, what would you say are your 3 truths?
Well, what's coming up for me, the first thing is that, this might sound a little but love wins. That's what's coming up for me. Yeah. Love wins. For me, over these years, man, I really believe that our relationships are the most impactful thing on our health, on our success in life, on our ability to, problem solve and to just be happy, our happiness quotient. It's our relationships. Sleep is amazing, but our relationships affect our sleep. You know what I'm saying? True. So I think it's just a huge governing force, and love wins, and finding ways to not try to win, but to love more, So that would be one. I hope that makes sense.
Love wins.
Number two would be, wow, this is tough, man, is self-care, Yeah. Make sure that you're taking care of yourself so that you can show up as the best version of yourself for the people that need you. There's a big culture today of, pushing yourself to the limit, sacrificing, this word sacrifice yourself so that you can do good for the people that you're trying to help or, even do good for the world. But the word sacrifice is from a root meaning to make sacred, right? And so if we're making sacred the craft of taking care of oneself so I can be the best version of myself, I don't really see it as a sacrifice. Like if I'm getting to bed early, if I'm skipping out on the party a little bit early, it's not a sacrifice, it's a sacred practice for me so that I can be the best me possible. Sure. So make sure that you're focusing on self-care as you move into the future. Yeah. So that would be number two. And number three would be to laugh as much as possible and have fun, be with people who make you laugh, cultivate humor. I came from a place where there was a lot of, it was crazy, man. Like, people from where I'm from, you can have, post-traumatic stress syndrome. You don't even realize it. The sirens, the gunshots, the violence. When you go outside, you don't know what's going to happen. You know what I'm saying? It could be a nice day. Everybody's out playing, shooting hoops on the crate. You know what I mean? Or, it could be a drive-by, and you got a drug dealer right next door. And, those are my idols. You know what I mean? And coming from that environment, and I think part of the reason that we made it out of those circumstances and did it somewhat gracefully is that we had laughter. We still had laughter in our household. Yeah. And, even though my family members that weren't necessarily the best role models, we still had laughter, and just being able to play, have fun. And so I think it's super important. And also just as we move into this next decade, I think that laughter, humor, smiling, kindness, these are going to be the things that really help to bring us together. We got enough stuff bringing us apart, but if we stop taking ourselves so seriously and understand that we are just a cell in this incredible body that we call Earth, and our job is to be a light, and we have the ability to light up any room we go into. And I've just literally yesterday ran an experiment. And, it's like the holiday season around this time. And I was just smiling at people, whether it's in the store, just people driving by in the parking lot, boom, smiles. 9 times out of 10, people smile back. Yeah, man. It's a responsive, reflexive thing. And then they can carry that on to the next person.
That's it, man.
So
that's
it for me.
I love that. So instead of saying you play too much, or don't play too much, say you don't play enough, right?
Yes.
Keep playing.
Keep playing.
Why are you playing? Keep playing.
Keep playing.
I like that. Awesome, man. Well, I acknowledge you, brother. I appreciate your wisdom. I appreciate all the research that you spent so much time on to give us clarity and peace of mind, because these are scary topics and ideas that there's so much noise out there and we don't know what's true and what's not true, and we don't know what to do. There's usually too many options, too many things to try. So thank you for creating clarity, creating the research and the foundation for us to have routines and simplifying all this mess. Awesome. So I acknowledge you, brother.
Thank you, man. I receive that, man. Thank you, bro.
Of course.
Hey, if you like this video, make sure to check out this video right here.
In the morning, you turn on the genes of metabolism and you turn on the genes of thinking, concentrating. And at night, 2 to 3 hours before bed, our body knows to turn off those genes, to turn off the metabolism, to turn off the genes of daytime